Did you see this video of passengers trying to get off a flight after Trump announced that the application fees for H-1B visas will be $100,000? This happened on an Emirates flight trying to leave out of San Francisco International Airport. That was on the same day that Trump announced that the application fees for H-1B visas will go up to $100,000. Compare that to the fact that historically, the H-1B visa applications has cost between $1,700 to $4,500, and that this new $100,000 annual fee will go into effect starting September 21st. That's why people are rushing to get off the plane, because the way it's being presented is that if you're in the country when the fee goes into effect, you don't have to pay it right now. But if you're outside of the country and try to come back in after the 21st, they're going to check to see if that fee was paid. And people weren't just scrambling to get off flights, people were scrambling to get on flights and being extorted for it.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Amy and this is Trending Pulse Worldwide, and I break down stories that everyone's talking about. Now, today we're looking at something that has really shocked a lot of people. President Trump has just announced a new requirement for H-1B visas, and it comes with a price tag of $100,000. Yes, $100,000 just to get approval. Think about that for a second. For immigrants who have been building their lives in the USA, or even those who just stepped out of the country to visit family and are trying to come back. And this fee could change everything. And that is why the reactions to this have been so strong. And some people are saying it's about protecting American jobs, while others see it as closing doors on skilled workers who have a lot to contribute. Well, either way, it's a heated conversation right now. But before I get into the full breakdown, let's take a moment to actually hear from the people themselves, because their voices really capture the shock, the frustration, and even the support for this move. So let's take a look.
We need workers, we need great workers, and this pretty much ensures that that's what's going to happen. I think, Sean, you agree with that?
Well, they're $100,000 per year. So the whole idea is no more will these big tech companies or other big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000, then they have to pay the employee. So it's just not economic. If you're going to train somebody, you're going to train one of the recent graduates from one of the great universities across our land. Train Americans, stop bringing in people to take our jobs. That's the policy here, $100,000 a year for H-1B visas, and all of the big companies are on board.
Oh no, this is gonna start beef with the entire tech industry. A lot of the most important people in tech, like Elon, the CEO of Google, Microsoft, Adobe, IBM, all came to the country on an H-1B visa. H-1B visas are basically the government's way of saying, hey, if you have a specialty occupation, if you're really good and really educated on something, we want you coming to our country to help our companies and build up our economy. The government has a cap on H-1B visas, they're super competitive, companies can only hand out a certain amount, they only last up to 6 years usually, and the president just said, hey, if you want to bring people in on an H-1B visa, you got to pay the US government 100 bands. The idea is if we limit H-1B visas, more Americans will get hired. But the problem is H-1B visas were already limited, and you can't just magically make rocket scientists, especially when you're cutting the Department of Education at the same time. So what will happen instead, most likely, is US companies will say, damn, they're charging us 100 grand to bring people here, so let's just build offices there instead. Come on, guys.
Indians working in the US have gotten the biggest shock of their lives, but it may work out to be very well for India, and I'll explain exactly what is happening. So yesterday, President Trump mentioned that any American company hiring foreign workers on H-1B visa will have to pay $100,000 every year to the US government in the form of a fee. Which means every Indian who will be hired by an American company, well, that company in the US will have to pay 88 lakh rupees, not one time, but every single year. Now, this means that practically all the Indians working in the US and are not already US citizens may have to come back, because right now this is a presidential order, and whether it's going to sustain in the US Congress or not, we can't really say. But imagine it does. I'll tell you what will happen. For example, when I speak with the administration at B schools in India like ISB as well as IIMA, the administration is really happy because right now the kind of applicants they're getting to these colleges for the MBA program are absolutely phenomenal, because 35% of the Indians who would apply to the US every year in search for better MBA are now not applying, and all these people are now studying in India. Similarly, now the best of talent from the world is going to come back to India because companies may not want to hire them in the US. And over the next 5 to 7 years, I would predict that a lot of global companies would then begin to bring investments into India, start setting up companies into India, and quite like how China grew over the past 2 decades on the back of their fabulous talent, which built massive tech companies inside of China which are now going global. The same journey may actually happen for India over the next 1 decade, because 71% of the H-1B applicants are actually Indians and only 12% are Chinese, which is why, while it is really painful for people who have family members in the US working right now in the short term, in the long term, it may be a fabulous golden opportunity for our country, India.
If you're on or hiring on an H-1B, here's the update. A new executive order says H-1B workers can't enter the United States unless a $100,000 payment is made for that worker. It's framed as reducing abuse and protecting U.S. jobs, but for employers and workers, it functions like a paywall at the border. There are narrow case-by-case exemptions for the national interests, but there's no broad carve-out by industry. So what does that mean in real life? If you're outside the United States with a newly approved H-1B, arrival could be denied unless the $100,000 is paid. If you're already inside the U.S. in valid H-1B status, you can keep working, but international travel just got risky without that payment on re-entry. Employers will think twice before filing, and some may cancel roles or shift them offshore. Healthcare impact. Many frontline RN roles don't qualify for H-1B, but advanced practice nurses and specialized roles do. And physicians often use H-1B when not on a J-1. Teaching hospitals and university-affiliated systems are usually CAP exempt, but CAP exempt is not the same as payment exempt under this order. So academic medical centers, critical access hospitals, and specialty clinics that rely on international clinicians could see onboarding delays, rescinded offers, or program start deferrals. For residents and fellows switching status or changing sites, travel could jeopardize start dates. Patients feel this next. Longer wait times, fewer subspecialties, and more burnout on already short-staffed teams. So what to do now? Employers should talk to counsel immediately about whether a national interest exemption is realistic, whether to pay the fee, and how to handle travel. Workers should avoid non-essential international trips, keep your documents current, and ask HR for a written plan. If you're a hospital leader, escalate staffing risks to your board today and map which departments depend on H-1B clinicians.
All right, let's break it down. So the Trump administration has introduced a $100,000 fee for new H-1B visa applications. And if you're already in the US on an H-1B visa, your renewal might not hit this. But here's where it gets messy. If you step out the country and try to come back, you could be treated as a new applicant, meaning you or your employer could be forced to pay that massive fee. Now, think about how extreme that is. $100,000 isn't just a barrier. It's basically a wall in itself. And for many immigrants, that money is simply impossible. And for companies, especially smaller ones or startups, this completely changes the game. Only the biggest corporations with deep pockets will be able to afford bringing in foreign workers. And some Americans are applauding this move, saying it protects local jobs. And sure, there are real criticisms on a H-1B system, and some companies have misused it to undercut wages. But here's the problem. A flat 100,000 USD doesn't target the abuse. It just shuts out talent while letting big corporations continue as usual. And this also puts international students in a tough spot. Imagine spending years studying in the US, landing a job only for your employer to say, "We'd love to keep you, but paying 100,000 US dollars on top of everything else, that's not happening." Well, that's a lost opportunity not only for the immigrant, but for America's own innovation and competitiveness. And legally, this is shaky too, because many experts are questioning whether the executive branch even has the authority to impose such a huge fee without Congress approving it. And that is why lawsuits and challenges are already being talked about. But the reality might be that it just limits opportunity, weakens smaller businesses, and drives talents elsewhere. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think this move makes sense, or is it going too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe for more conversations on trending topics. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. My name is Amy, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay blessed.